Cloudy's Knight became one of the most popular racehorses of his generation, exceeding the already high expectations held by his owners, Gerald and Shirley SCHWARTZ, when they bred his mother, Cloudy Spot.
Cloudy Spot ran in Illinois, and then we decided to breed her. My husband really wanted to breed a turf horse and a classic horse. He wanted to get the distance. It wasn't by accident that he bred Lord Avey. He got exactly what he was looking for. He was born in May. He was a late foal. When he was born, yes, he was very big. We looked out there and my husband said, "You know what? He's gonna be my stake turf horse." And I said, then let's call him Cloudy's Knight to give his mother recognition.
When it was time to start his training, they sent him to Frank Kirby.
He was a 2-year-old. I got him at my training center in Maple Park, and we started going along slow, and he was a huge horse. So actually we weren't in a hurry with him at all.
Cloudy was like just the big, huge baby Huey. They knew he had potential, but he just had grown so big that they needed his body to just come together.
We felt that he would do best at 4 and beyond 4, and we were trying to raise him as long as we could.
He could go a long ways. You could tell it right off that he had a good range. He could just gallop all day.
The only one that knew him well was Nancy. I think he lasted long because of the treatment that she did give him before the races.
On January 28th of 2003, a horse went down with me working at Hawthorne, so I broke basically my whole upper back. About June, Shirley SCHWARTZ asked me if I would be interested in coming to massage some of her horses. I was so excited because I was worried about coming back after my accident and getting work, and there she was calling me to come out.
In only his 4th lifetime start, Cloudy's Knight won his first race in the fall at Hawthorne.
Cloudy's Knight between horses, and Cloudy's Knight now fastest of all to the front. Unbelievable, then Jink. They come to the wire, Cloudy's Knight to win it.
After the race, they decided to give him some time off, which would become a reoccurring theme throughout his career.
We just decided to let him grow until we came back to Arlington. It proved to be the right thing. In his 4-year-old year, he went to showing great promise then.
Every time we ran him, it was just a very exciting time for us. And he didn't disappoint us. I mean, he was special. I think he knew what he was there for.
I was doing the on-air commentating at Arlington Park, and he walked into the paddock, and I think I stopped everybody and said,
I want our cameraman to go take a look at number 1, because this is a magnificent looking horse. This is a son of Lord Avey. He's a gorgeous chestnut.
and from that point on, I've been in love with this horse ever since.
And my husband said, "Oh, I hope Christine's not going to say too much about him today."
I make no bones about it. I have one favorite horse in here, and that is number 2, Cloudy's Knight.
She always did.
After back-to-back allowance wins at Arlington Park, it was decided to point Cloudy's Knight towards the John Henry Stakes and to team up with rider Renee Douglas.
Renee was really excited. He had been after me to ride this horse, and as we all know, he was a great rider. And he'd been watching this horse, and Renee fit this horse really well.
The race before the John Henry, when Renee Douglas came back to the winner's circle, he said to Frank, he said, "This horse needs ring bits for control." So once we put the ring bits on, he started to rate, and that's when you started to see a form difference on him.
Cloudy's Knight, honor and war on the outside. Cloudy's Knight has conquered for Kirby.
And he was so right. He had him timed perfect, and that's what he needed. He needed a perfect timed ride.
I felt like I was part of the team, and there's so many people that are part of the team.
Dr. SCHWARTZ, are you thinking about possibly 1.5 miles down the road?
The thought has occurred to me, yes it has. And I want to thank Renee for a beautiful ride. I saw him pull the horse back in the beginning, and Frank for training it.
My husband and I were just so thrilled. Who knew where we were going after that win?
When I ran him all the time, the next day after he ran, normally I'd take him home. And I'd let him just kind of hang out for 10 days or so in a grass paddock and just take it easy. And then I'd train him for about 10, 12, 15 days. Then I'd bring him back to the track and prepare him for his next race, basically. which worked out good. He kept the horse really sound.
Cloudy is the most fortunate racehorse you've ever seen because he had winters off, his 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old years. When he ran, he was turned out for 2 weeks after every race and then brought back in. And he was massaged before and after every work and before and after every race. So not many horses get that.
I remember telling Dr. SCHWARTZ that I thought that he was really a graded stake horse about the middle of his 4-year-old year.
After hitting the board in 3 graded stakes races, Cloudy's Night won the Rossi Gold at Arlington Park towards the end of his 5-year-old season. He then took an entire year away from racing, but came back ready to run at the beginning of 2007, now as a 7-year-old.
And he was really doing well, so I thought, well, we'll send him down to fairgrounds and could run him 3 or 4 times over the winter.
So someone suggested, why don't you give him to Jim down there and see what you can do?
Nancy contacted me and said, hey, we'd like you to take Cloudy to the fairgrounds if you can. And I said, absolutely.
So the first few races at the fairgrounds, he was running and he was running good, but he just wasn't quite getting there. He kept running thirds and thirds. He'd take off at the 8th pole and keep running past the wire and keep going. And you're like, oh my gosh, he could have won, he could have gotten there.
When the opportunity arose to run in the Grade 3 Fairgrounds Breeders' Cup Handicap, a rider change was made to jockey Ramsey Zimmerman.
Ramsey I was using at the time at the fairgrounds. I thought he was riding really well. He just seemed to, style-wise, fit him, so I thought he was a good choice.
The best way I could get along with him is just to let him do whatever he wanted. That's what worked out for us. I think I tried to gallop him one time, and he got a little aggressive, and I tried to muscle him down, and I just knew as soon as I took a hold of him that I had made a serious mistake. He ran off with me all the way back around to the quarter pole. From that point on, I knew who I was dealing with.
It almost felt like they were made for each other. Fit him like a glove.
Cloudy's Night waiting in the wings. Transduction Gold. Fort Prado 4 lengths adrift above the quarter pole.
They came around the final turn, and they're turning for home. And Ramsey just, instead of whipping and driving, he reached up and he switched his lead with his hands, and Cloudy switched over to the right lead on a dime and just takes off at the quarter pole.
And then, he made his signature close, and he just kept coming.
The whole quarter mile, just knocking him down, every single horse, and got up to win.
It was very exciting. Very exciting because he's so big and he would cover so much ground through the stretch. He was fun to watch.
The Mervyn Muniz was his first $500,000 race, and the Schwartzes were really nervous. They thought he didn't fit there. They were like, look who's in the form, it's Einstein. We're running against Einstein. We're crazy. What are we doing? We shouldn't be doing this to poor Cloudy.
That was the only horse I was afraid of. And I said, our luck has it, we have to run against him.
I'm like, don't worry. They're like, Nancy, read the form. I said, I don't have to read the form. Cloudy is doing so good, and don't worry about who's in the race. We know that Cloudy's the best he can be.
The one thing about Cloudy, I had Zimmerman on him. 2, Cloudy would always come with his game and giving you 120% of himself.
The winning line looms. Einstein, Cloudy's Night. Here's the wire. Einstein holds Cloudy's Night by a half length.
After a strong second-place finish behind Einstein in the Mervyn Muniz, it was time to head back to Arlington.
The plan all along was just for me to have him at the fairgrounds. He was going back to Frank. The Schwartzes told me up front that was the plan, and that was it. It was kind of sad, but that was it.
At that time, I gave him a little more time, kind of babied him around a little bit. That was when he really started coming to hand then.
Next came the Grade 3 Stars and Stripes at Arlington Park, a race that Cloudy's Night would attempt to win 4 times throughout his career.
Because that's the distance he loves to run, and the Arlington turf course is the best turf course there is.
There was no speed. Cloudy had the ability, he had tactical speed. So when he got into that race and nothing popped out, Ramsey thought, I'm not going to fight him, so I'm going to let him do what he wanted to do.
He did whole Cloudy thing, and it was just a head bob at the wire, and Cloudy got nosed out.
It was a heart-wrenching loss.
Sometimes you win by a nose, and sometimes you lose by a nose, and you have to be able to accept that whichever way it goes.
It was really unfortunate because the Schwartzes have always wanted to win the Stars and Stripes. It was really sad that he lost, but he put in 100% that day.
After the Stars and Stripes, and we got back to the barn, Frank got a call from Julie at Woodbine. Would we be interested in the Nijinsky? And we decided, yeah, why not? Let's take a trip up there.
Frank Kirby told me I needed to get a passport.
Woodbine seemed like a fitting place for Cloudy to go next with a pair of Grade 2 long-distance grass races, the Nijinsky and the Sky Classic.
And I basically wanted to keep my eye out for Sky Conqueror because I had read on the front page of the Form that morning that he was the best turf horse in the country. In that race, with the horse so far in front of me, when we hit the 5/8 pole, I started asking Cloudy to run, and I had never done that before. Sky Conqueror started running alongside of me, and we were in a complete dogfight all the way down to the wire. And I ended up second, beating him for third, and the speed horse, ended up clearing the field and winning.
And I had told Dr. Schwartz that if this horse won either one of those good stakes, I wanted to try him in that $2 million. He said, "Oh, Frank, you're dreaming." I said, "No, I want to run this horse in that 1.5 miles."
And it is Cloudy's Night in front. Cloudy's Night to win the Sky Classic.
Fortunately, he won the race that day and won pretty smart.
The Canadian International was coming up. And at first Jerry said, "Are you sure?" You know, he said, "I don't think he should run on that one." And I said, "You know what? He certainly has earned the honor to run in it."
Shirley called me and said Woodbine was calling them to run in the Canadian Pattison, which was $2 million, $2.2 million. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because I knew Cloudy could do it. He was so right at this time.
I had absolute faith in him. I was so confident that horse would never give up for me.
Frank had him ready. Ramsey gave him an unbelievable ride. I think everybody believed he could win it except probably Jerry. Cloudy knew he could win it, and Ramsey, I think, thought he could win it. And I certainly thought he was on his game at that point.
I think that was probably the best field of 1.5 mile grass horses I ever remember seeing assembled.
I remember thinking in my mind somewhere halfway down the stretches that I was going to win it by 4 or 5. I couldn't believe how easily he was winning. And then all of a sudden I could hear the crowd roaring. I put my head down and just pushed as hard as I could, and he stuck his neck out as far as he could. I remember standing up thinking, oh my God, I got him beat.
All he had to do is stick his nose up, which he did, and we won it.
It was so exciting, you couldn't imagine it. I thought I was going to have a stroke, you know. It was a very exciting race, it really was.
We lost a lot of races by noses, but we won the big one by a nose.
And he sure didn't let us down. He ran the most dynamite race of his career that day.
That is one of my proudest moments in my life. I'd say the thing that I'm proudest the most of are my 2 children, Ryder and Racy, and Cloudy's Night is definitely number 3.
The 7-year-old Cloudy's Night was nominated for and won Canada's equivalent to the Eclipse, the Sovereign Award for Champion Male Turf Horse of 2007.
It was unbelievably a high year for all of us. At that point, it was the end of the season, so it was time to really give him a good break.
Following the fantastic campaign of 2007, everybody's thoughts turned towards 2008 and what it might bring.
It was a bad year. For whatever reason, we were unsuccessful that year.
He just didn't have the drive. You know, everybody's saying, oh, he's not the Cloudy he used to be.
And he was getting beat 5 or 6 lengths a lot of times, but he wasn't quite himself.
I kept on massaging and just trying to make him happy, but he just wasn't performing up to how we knew he could perform.
The final race for 2008 was the Grade 1 Northern Dancer at Woodbine.
When he went up to Woodbine, it got really boggy, and he ran, and towards the end, I think he got hurt. So we brought him back and x-rayed him and found out that there was a slight problem. So again, rest and time off. I knew that there was possibly another year for him. I decided that I needed to do something different.
She called me and she's like, I think it would be amazing for Cloudy to train on those long European gallops like Jonathan Sheppard talks about at his farm.
I liked the idea that they're out of the barn 8 to 9 hours. And I felt that we'd be better off to go to an area where they would go up and down hills and they'd have hours of training. And that would probably strengthen any problems that he might have had.
I received this phone call from a lady I never heard of before, SCHWARTZ. I was about to say that I wasn't going to take the horse. She said he's 9 years old and he's got a bowed tendon. And I'm thinking, this sounds like a bit of a long shot. And then she mentioned his name and told me about this race. And all of a sudden, I remembered seeing it. And I'm thinking, well, it's still a bit of a long shot, but at least we know if we can pull it off, it's worth putting the time and the effort.
I got Cloudy set up to be vanned out that way, and when this vanning was set up, I sat down and I wrote Frank a letter. And I said to him, Frank, this isn't about you, it isn't about me, it's about Cloudy. It was an uncomfortable time for both of us.
I know how owners do. They want to do what they do, and you want to do what you do, you know. I wasn't happy about it. You don't have very many in your life you win a $2 million race with. So I was a little put out by that. That hurts you a little. It did.
Cloudy was a very good horse before I got him. You know, had been in good hands and had a lot of success. And the only reason I think that they made the change to SCHWARTZ was because it was what could potentially have been a career-ending injury that he had.
You know, I had mixed feelings because, you know, I'm here with Jonathan's farms in Pennsylvania, but I'm like, it would probably be really good for him.
I talked to Jonathan once a week. At first, I could tell there was doubt in his mind when we talked. He didn't look that good. He didn't like his coat. I think he was a little hesitant at times. As time went on, I think that he started to realize the potential in Cloudy.
The Schwartz and I would fly out to the farm in Pennsylvania, and it's just an amazing place. It was really good for Cloudy, and it's a good atmosphere because it's on a farm. You know, it's rolling hills, and after the gallops, then he'd come back and have his bath, and then they'd take him out to graze.
It really instilled in me that I think I made the right decision. Every time I talked to Jonathan, he would say, he's really doing well. At first he was doing well, then he's really doing well. And then he said, I think we should go to Kentucky Downs with him. I said to Jonathan, Mr. Sheppard, do you think that Kentucky Downs will be good? The hills up and down? And he said, Shirley, where do you think he's been training all summer?
Anyway, it just seemed like a nice place to start, and it's sort of a little bit off the beaten track. Kentucky Downs, I figured if it's a total flop, you know, not too many people are going to notice, hopefully. I had picked Rosemary Homeister to ride him.
He knew I liked to ride at Kentucky Downs, and I always told him, if you have anything going to Kentucky Downs, let me know, because I love that turf course, how it goes up and down. It's like a roller coaster. And he says, I think I have a horse, you know, going in one of the stakes over there. Would you like to go? I said, yeah, I would love to. So I had gone to the barn, and this huge, gorgeous horse walks into the barn, and I was like, oh my God, he's huge. When I got to Kentucky Downs, I met the owner in the paddock, and we were talking, and I had said to her, I said, oh, he's like a gentle giant. And she started laughing. She's like, that's what I called him. And her and I clicked right away.
Nobody knew what to expect as Cloudy's Night made his first start in over a year.
And he just started picking it up. He had like dead aim on the horses in front of him. He knew which ones he wanted to be, and by the time I think we got to the 8th hole, he just took off. And I mean, I won the race so easily, and he did it like with such ease. I was like, this is the coolest horse ever rode.
He was on his game. He was back. and you could see it.
I enjoyed watching him run. I mean, and I think Jonathan did a good job with him.
Everybody there was ecstatic, almost like the Canadian Pattison, because to see him win again, we were like so happy, and happy for Cloudy. He had the drive back.
And Rosemary was so cute after the race. She came up to me and she said, I love that horse. He's such a good horse. She said, I'll follow him anywhere, even to the Breeders' Cup. And I just looked at her and I go, what is she talking about, the Breeders' Cup?
You really have to admire and respect the horse. And he came through for us, you know. He's a very quality animal, a lot of courage, and very competitive, loves his job. And it was really quite moving.
That was Kentucky Downs, and then we went on to the Sycamore. That was a really tough race. I mean, Winchester was in there, and a lot of heavy heads were in there. And, it was only Cloudy's second start back.
Cloudy would not let this horse go by him. They were head and head from the last eighth of a mile. We were flying.
Cloudy's Night is running late with Winchester. Yates Black Cat, timeless fashion. Cloudy's Night, Winchester. Cloudy's Night, Winchester coming forward. Cloudy's Night, Winchester. Cloudy's Night gets there by a head.
You know, thank God for that long old nose of his. He's got a head like this. It was pretty darn close.
And that shows how game he is and how professional and how determined he is to win.
Kentucky Downs, you might say, oh, it's a soft spot, because not everybody wants to ship over there and run on that track. But Keeneland, that's not a soft spot ever. And there he was, proving himself again, stepping up to the challenge.
A day or two after the race at Keeneland, the guy that writes for the Racing Form, Marty McGee, comes up and we're chatting.
It's just my duty as a Racing Form correspondent to every Breeders' Cup year follow certain races and canvass the prospective runners. And just after he had won the race there at Keeneland, I remember coming up to him.
And he says, I guess you'll be going to the Breeders' Cup now. The Breeders' Cup, I said, I don't think that's, that Breeders' Cup turf is extremely tough. All those top horses coming over from Europe and stuff. And I'm not sure that he's quite that caliber, certainly at this stage of his life.
I just said, what about the Breeders' Cup Marathon? I saw a little light go on in his mind, like, hey, how about that?
The more I started thinking about it, we're training him at Keeneland on synthetic. And, some of those synthetic surfaces, grass horses do adapt to quite well.
The next thing you know, Jonathan's calling saying, Shirley, what do you think about the Breeders' Cup Marathon?
And it's like, wow, is this really happening? I can't believe it's happening.
We all decided, what do we got to lose? Let's go for it.
Outside of the Patterson, what could be better than the Breeders' Cup for us?
The excited Cloudy's Night team headed out to Santa Anita.
So I'm massaging everything, not, just trying to do what I always do and try to make Cloudy happy. And Barry, Jonathan's assistant, comes to me and he said, Nancy, what do you think about walking Cloudy over for the Breeders' Cup? And I'm like, what? Me? And he's like, why not you, who knows him better than anybody, walk him over? So I'm like, I would love to. I would be honored. I was sleepless the night before thinking of, oh my gosh, what if I turn Cloudy's Night loose? Santa Anita.
I remember staying up all night in Dubai in the morning to wee hours of the morning to watch the race, and just was screaming, thinking he was going to win it.
But I did say to Rosemary Hillmeister in the paddock before the race, I said, look, this is a lovely old horse. I don't want to do something. If he's not enjoying himself or he's not handling it, just ease up on him.
Field descent on their 1 3/4 journey. They all came out well.
I could just feel goosebumps on my body just as he came around the turn, and he just starts wanting to gain ground, and you're just, oh my gosh, he's gonna win. You're just like, oh yeah, and I'm standing and all these people hovered around me, just like peeking, through. And here he comes, and Rosemary riding as hard as she can.
In the marathon, and Cloudy's Night digs deep, finds more mastery on the outsiders.
And when I got to the quarter pole, we were just straightening up for home, I asked him to run, and he really kicked in hard. And when he felt the favorite come back on him on the outside, he took off again. And if he would have seen the horse on the inside, he would have never let that horse pass him.
And then right at the end, this wretched animal comes flying up on the rail. And it was too close to call. Nobody really knew.
I just know how hard he tried, and he ran a winning race. And he does not know that he lost the Breeders' Cup Marathon. He thinks he won.
And I got a lot of flack, like people were saying I moved too soon in that race. I'm the worst critic on myself than anybody, and I know that I didn't move too soon. You know, it looks like it when you watch the race.
Did she move too soon? No, I don't think she moved him too soon. She knew that she'd be the favorite on the outside. But in reality, I think she lost sight of the inside horse. And then I think when Cloudy saw it, he dug deep. And I think one more jump, he would have won it.
We were so proud of the horse and running so well that really, although we were disappointed, we were sort of happy about the whole thing too. I mean, it was a tremendous performance.
And we thought that that was the last race for the year. A few weeks later go by, and Jonathan calls again and said, there's another 1.75 mile race at Woodbine. I think it'd be perfect for Cloudy.
They're off in the valedictory stakes.
It was quite a battle. I mean, because the other horse got in front and stayed in front, and then he just gradually kept coming and coming, Cloudy. And I remember the commentator, he said, and now Cloudy's Night with the heart of a lion. It was really cool. It was a great commentary.
Pool play is back in third. Cloudy's Night, the heart of a lion, is coming back on the inside. Cloudy's Night has taken the lead. Cloudy's Night returns to the site of his greatest victory to win the valedictory.
And we definitely thought that was the last race of the season. Shirley, they even interviewed her, and she goes, well, it's nice to go out the last race for him of the year on a win. And the next thing you know, about 3 weeks later, Jonathan calls again and says,
you know what? I think we should go to the McKnight. I go, oh my gosh, to the McKnight.
So there we were, Shirley and I and Dr. Schwartz on Christmas Day flying to Miami. The Schwartzes were all worried about Precious Passion. And I'm like, don't worry, Cloudy's still on top of his game. You know, don't worry about anybody else in the race. Just know that you got your horses 100% right now. That's all you can ask for.
Precious Passion. That was like the main horse to beat. So we started on the backside, and so we break out of the gate. All of a sudden, I see Precious Passion's on the lead. I think Elvis Trujillo was on the horse, just sitting quiet. Well, the bug boy in the race, he forgot it was 1.5 miles. He thought it was 5.5. The bug boy starts riding his horse to finish the last 1/4 mile. He's bumping Precious Passion all the way down the stretch, going head-to-head with Elvis Trujillo, trying to beat him to the wire. So it made Precious Passion take off. So he actually sprinted the last 1/4 mile in the first turn, and you could see the bug boy drop, oh my God. You know, you can imagine what went through his mind. He just looked like an idiot. But he ruined the race for Precious Passion. But it set up the race perfect for me.
Cloudy's Night is out after him. Winchester is putting in a good run from the back of the pack. It's Spice Route, Cloudy's Night. These two lock horns. Spice Route, Cloudy's Night. Cloudy's Night onto the front. Cloudy's Night wins the McKnight.
After winning 4 races in his 9-year-old season, Cloudy's Night took some well-deserved time off.
He was supposed to make his comeback at Keenan again in the spring. He was entered, in the big long-distance race they have in the spring there. He had a very good work 4 days before or whatever. My assistant trainer, who was galloping in Breesden this day, had told me the track was a little bit loose and cuppy on the turn. He sort of wants to hold the horse together a bit around the turn and then finish up nicely. As luck would have it, there was another horse breezing, and it came up and set Cloudy off, and he went around that turn pretty darn fast, and he was a little bit lame afterward.
We took him to the farm, and then it seemed to heal.
And it looked like things were coming back into shape again.
Cloudy's Night was entered in the Grade 3 Kentucky Cup Turf at Kentucky Downs, the same race that he had won the previous year.
About 15 minutes before the race, there was just a downpour like you wouldn't believe.
It made the turf like soup, like just mucky, and like the horses that loved it went through it perfect. But I'm thinking it should be okay because he is so big, he should be able to, you know, cover the ground, no problem. He was just so like, come on, let's run. He was just excited. He loved being there that day. He actually handled the turf pretty well. And that day he was really just second best.
And it was a good second, but he didn't win. So we weren't used to him not winning, so it was kind of a little bit of a letdown.
We kind of had it in our mind. I'd read somewhere that no 10-year-old had ever won a graded stake in this country on the flat. So we thought we could kind of set a record, you know. And it just wasn't to be. They were pretty disappointed, the Schwartzes. I thought he ran a heck of a race myself, but some other injury flared up and we had to stop them.
Jonathan just felt that the time had come. He ran, he gave us an unbelievable run. He said he was an amazing horse and that we should close the book, so we did. Like someone said to me, they said, you know, you ran 5 races in a 4-month period with a 9-year-old horse. You get 4 wins and 1 second by nose. How can you beat that?
He is my ultimate favorite that I've ridden in any race, anywhere, for my 19-and-a-half-year career. I even bought an equicizer and named it Cloudy's Night.
When they told me that it was time to retire him, I was very, very sad, but I know that it's great for him to go out at the top of his game. It's a great feat for him, and everybody will remember Cloudy's Night is one of the best.
Everybody stops me. What'd you do with Cloudy? Where's the big horse?
Throughout Cloudy's career, he truly did have no bigger fan than Christine Gabriel.
I want our cameraman to go take a look at number 1 because this is a magnificent looking horse.
Right away, as soon as I got off the air, I walked up to Frank Kirby and I said, tell me about this horse.
She told me, oh, I want this horse when he's finished. I want this horse when he's finished.
I befriended Jerry and SHIRLEY SCHWARTZ, and before you know it, I got bold enough when I said to them one day, when the day comes, whenever it happens, I would like you to consider me taking him on in retirement because I ride horses and I think he'd make a beautiful hunter.
At first, I just thought of it as a joke type thing, you know. Don't forget, Shirley, when you retire him, I want him. I go, okay, Christine. She said, I'll give him a wonderful home. Just remember, I want him.
But God only knows over his 8 years of racing that he had his fair share of setbacks. And Shirley and Jerry were absolutely the best owners he could ever have because they gave him plenty of time to heal and recuperate. And I've had my fair share of setbacks in my life with cancer. I'm a 4-time cancer survivor. And it seems that when Cloudy started having some of his setbacks, I was starting to have more of my setbacks. Shirley used to call us the comeback kids because Cloudy's Night would come back and he would win races and I would come back from chemotherapy and radiation and go back to work. And to this day, it's a miracle that I'm here. And I think it's a miracle that Cloudy has retired so soundly to go on and be able to have a second career in his life at the age of 11.
But you know, health-wise, it's a miracle she's here. And everybody who knows Christine and knows Cloudy just thought it was wonderful that the two of them had each other.
I was here in Chicago and I called my husband and I said, I just got the call from Shirley. And he said, and I said, they're gonna retire Cloudy. And he said, well, you better find a farm. So then it was when I got back here this spring in 2011 that I found Country Ridge. You know, Shirley came out, Nancy came out, everybody wanted to come out and see him and what have you.
She's given him an unbelievable home, a beautiful, beautiful stable.
This is an amazing barn, amazing place. I mean, rubber bricks for him to walk on. Just Laura is a great trainer and being very patient with him. So he's got a great home for an ex-racehorse, better than I've ever seen one get before, you know. So it's really, even though I miss him so much, it's reassuring in my mind that he has a good home and he still has something to do, because he still wants something to do. He doesn't just want to, you know, be turned out all the time. He seems like he has a lot more life left to him.
You know, a lot of people think that it's nice for horses just to be standing sort of in retirement under a shady tree in a field somewhere, but, you know, they're used to the attention and they're used to some activity. I mean, so long as a horse is reasonably sound, which he became perfectly sound, you know, after he'd had a little time off, after we stopped with him.
A typical day is I get here, I pick out his stall, we groom him, we get him ready to ride. Either Laura is training him, or I'm hacking him, or I'm taking a lesson on him. So I spend a great deal of time with him and just trying to build a bond. As the trainers did with him on the racetrack, as the jockeys did with him on the racetrack, Laura and I are trying to build a very trustworthy bond with Cloudy so that he knows he's got nothing to fear.
To me, the mark of a great thoroughbred is a horse that sees something and walks right towards it. And that's like what Cloudy is. You know, like the first time he saw the jump and didn't know what it was, he was startled, and then he walked me right up to it. And I'm like, this is not going to be a problem. The first few times, it was trial and error. We kind of knocked down more than we jumped. It was that concept of backing up to his hind end and coming up. He thought he was supposed to just go at him. And once it clicked, he kind of bumped his front feet a couple times, then bumped his hind hooves, and then he went, okay, wait a minute. That's the highest he's ever jumped today, but he's figured it out. You know, he saw the change in the height right away and adjusted, and I think it's going to be really simple. I don't even know how high he will jump, to be quite honest.
For me, it's just a matter of getting in the ring and being competitive and something to get my adrenaline going a little bit. And if he can go in and win ribbons and perform well and always give us a challenge, as I'm always learning and he's always learning, I think we'll all be satisfied with that.
I would think that it was pretty hard for the Schwartzes to give him away. You know, it would have been for me, I know.
It really was hard for Shirley, emotionally, really. He'd been so much a part of their joy. But he's always going to be where they can come and see him, and he's always going to be a part of their life. She came today bearing, you know, 3 bags of carrots and a case of Miller Genuine Draft.
Gave him the opportunity to still challenge him and love and the attention, and he certainly shows that when you look at him.
He is not only just enjoying himself, he's providing a great amount of joy and is so healthy mentally and physically for me, and what I have to overcome and what I have to do to keep enduring in this life. So I thank you both very much.
Ever since he's been out here, they've called me out once or twice a month to keep massaging him. He's using all new muscles, learning how to jump, so he still gets a little sore in his back and behind. I still get to see him about twice a month now, so it's really good.
And it's great that he has a good home now. He deserved it. He's a special animal, and now he's got a special home. This is great. So I think that's almost a fairy tale ending.
He is definitely part of the family. When my husband goes out to the grocery store and comes home with Miller Genuine Draft for the horse, he's part of the family.
And she did get him, and I'm happy for her for that, because I hope she's enjoying him. And he's a great animal.
I think he has a brilliant mind. I think he's so special. To me, he's famous. He deserves his celebrity, and he'll always deserve his celebrity for what he's done. And I think there's a part inside of him that knows that, and that's how he'll always be treated.
It's been an unbelievable ride, and I appreciated all the fans that followed him and loved him. For us, being a small breeder, it was a once-in-a-lifetime shot. It was a dream come true.